Just a quick tidbit for all of you viewers out there. Ho played on New Paradigm for last season, so a returning player in the Pacific region right now. So get out the gates here for Sanctuary, and both teams going to run the Rhine version of Goats to start things out with.
Yeah, it is going to be Ho actually on the Divas. That opens up Powu on the Zarya, something we've seen him play to great effect the few times he's had a chance to do so.
Yeah, an early control of the point so far is going to force Giant Esports to approach, and actually taking the open ground here means if Giant wants to go on, they have to be able to go through this choke, which is not exactly ideal. You can see the early damage that Titawat's already taken.
Yeah, I really like Ho's positioning on the side there. It just makes it so hard for Titawat to advance forward. And in that brief moment of vulnerability, they found some opening. They get Mushroom, Titawat drops, and PHOENiX, having already actually captured the point there as well, are also going to force Giant a long, long way back to spawn.
Nice pin coming through as well. A couple of late kills here, and this is just going to slow things down even further for Giant Esports. Cap already went through as well, ticking up their progress right now. A lot of ultimate charge being collected on the side of PHOENiX, and for Giant Esports, have to recollect themselves and a decent amount behind as well in terms of that ult charge.
So now, Giant, a little bit on the back foot here, but there is still a window before those ultimates come online for PHOENiX, and that's a window they really need to take advantage of. Not going to have any ultimates of their own, though. They just need to outfrag, and PHOENiX taking very aggressive positioning also helps them finish charging up those ultimates. They come up right as Titawat drops. That's an open Earth Shatter now. An absolute gimme here from PHOENiX. One ultimate wins the fight as the other 5 will come online.
You see if there for Giant Esports, they just managed to get the support ultimates in time, but already started to lose a decent amount of members. Already had a lot of members stunned up by the Earth Shatter from Melon as well. Titawat was pressured out super early, and the game plan there for PHOENiX is get rid of the Rhino of the other team, get yourself a free shatter, and win the fight.
Might as well take it, and now they cycle through all the rest. They'll have the grab coming up, can layer it in with a self-destruct if necessary, and then they've got the defensive tools to deal with Sun Series' own Graviton Surge as well.
We're about 2 fights away here for PHOENiX, just closing things out. They've still got a lot of ults to play with. The grab.
Yeah, nicely done, just waiting until Titawat was moving backwards, covering that movement. Ho lay it in just perfectly. PHOENiX, they're just looking, I mean, they're in their stride here, man.
We have a lot of perfect counters here as well. We have the Graviton Surge being used. Pichu wants to use the Transcendence. The appropriate counter to that is then going to be the Self-Destruct coming up from Ho, because you're not going to damage the Transcendence anyway, but the Self-Destruct doesn't care about that ultimate at all.
Now 90%, Melon about to lap Titawat here, coming up on his second grab to Titawat's 1. And look at how much damage Sun Series takes. They're actually forced to use the Sound Barrier just to stay in the fight. Decent shatter from Titawat does stop up PHOENiX and stops them from following Melon's shatter. So now, Giant, they have a bit of an opportunity is the word here, but the self-destruct is not quite placed where they need it. They still find Ho's mech, though, in spite of the Sound Barrier, but losing Titawat is a far more costly trade for Giant than it is for PHOENiX. Ho gets finished off, but Mushroom is down as well. The numbers advantage remains in place for PHOENiX. Point did flip during the course of that fight.
Always going to commit though
in the grab, but PHOENiX had so much to play with still had the numbers advantage, about to recap the point, and at 99%, I don't see Giant coming back in here.
Titawat's going to get charged out as well. Mushroom's trying to come back on the Doomfist, but the damage has been done. The flip is over as well. Giant Esports, they got a little bit of progress on there, but it's not going to be enough. Few members just attempting to continue this overtime, but it should be PHOENIX's in just a couple moments.
And this is smartly played by PHOENiX. They saw that Mushroom was on the Doomfist, that he was going to be moving around to try and cap the point. Rocket as well. So PHOENiX just split. They took a 3v2 on the point and then picked off respawners coming out of the base just to make sure that nothing funky came out of the side of Giant.
And really, a lot of confidence coming out of PHOENiX as well. The fact that we're going very even in that last engagement. You also had the point flip over as well, so Giant Esports, they were the ones in charge. They're the ones getting themselves a lot of progress in terms of objectives while PHOENiX are trying to catch up. But to have the confidence to stay into that fight, to not fall back, rely on the Graviton Surge from Powu, and then be able to clean things up, that's what's going to give PHOENiX basically a very one-sided game. It wasn't 100-0, but it was close.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was essentially 100-0 when you consider that PHOENiX won every single fight, essentially. But back in the Mirror Goats matchup, look, this is something PHOENiX can just comfortably lean into here.
Certainly is in Giant, a lot of familiarity here as well.
Bit of a knockdown on Mushroom, it doesn't get punished. Instead, it's actually Melon taking some pressure. They find Titawat, though, overextended as he was, and it's so often we see that. You just get the dollar bills in your eyes when an enemy Reinhardt gets low, but PHOENiX are kind of hurting more for this one. Giant have high ground and good positioning, and PHOENiX are actually having to retreat from the spot.
The cap has opened as well. Giant Esports haven't quite rotated on just yet. now finally pressuring that one out. PHOENiX do get the chance to regroup though as that happens.
Yeah, that's the thing. At least it will be a 6 versus 6, but Giant have actually got the opening cap, so they come out the better of that skirmish, that 1-for-1 trade. Now coming back onto the point, PHOENiX are the ones who have to answer, and they do so by getting T1 out of the picture. Quick, smart, plus the sound barrier out of LCUB. Very quick one, just ahead of Rocket to make sure they have the health bar to sustain through the fight, and they're going to cap straight off the back of that.
And it is very common in Goats versus Goats as well. You have PHOENiX pressuring out the Rhine on the opposite end. Giant Esports, of course, trying to do the same thing. But getting T1 down early means you stop him from getting this early shatter, which he was ahead of Melon in that regard. But Melon this time has been able to overtake him while T1's been down.
And that's the thing, now PHOENiX just want to do what they did on Sanctuary, rotate through those ultimates first. They will be fishing for either a grab or a shatter. They actually with the shatter as T1 came forward. Not the hugest though, Mushroom blocked most of it. And now with those two support ultimates, everyone's relatively safe. But with those two support ultimates gone, PHOENiX's grab can just catch everyone with nothing to stop them. The self-destruct layered in is going to collect 2, thanks to HOENiX. And that's PHOENiX. I mean, they did have to use about everything they had, but to be fair, so did Giant.
The thing for PHOENiX is they still have a lot of advantages to play with. Yeah, 40% to 18. They had the initial boot from Ilsuba to get T1 out of the way. Melon lands a shatter, not in enough members, but did force ultimates responded by Giant anyway. Because both teams use ultimates, the team that does end up winning this fight is still massively ahead. A lot being committed, but it's PHOENiX in the lead.
Oh, great catch in the rotation. Sick position from Melon. And again, this high economy usage of the fight, well, the ultimates rather. And that was a shatter he charged up over the course of the previous fight when he'd already used one.
Very well placed as well, just hiding in the corner. Giant Esports didn't quite spot that one out. They're still waiting for Power to get this Graviton Surge up to match Sun Series, but they had 6 kills beforehand, which would certainly help them in this next fight.
Look at this, just spotting what path Giant are going to take. They are aware that Sun Series has the grab available, but now so does PHOENiX. So PHOENiX just a double grab out. It's going to be PHOENiX, though, collecting the kills. I think Sun Series grab actually got eaten there. I didn't see that landing on anyone. Super unfortunate. And PHOENiX are just getting so much more in every regard than what Giant are.
The timing of the fight means as well, at 95%, Giant are still only just respawning. They need to get to the point in time. At PHOENiX, they have control. They still have a shatter available.
Yeah, T1 had to dive for the point because they knew where Rocket was. He wasn't going to be able to get there safely, and now Giant are just coming on to this 1-by-1. Not really a winnable fight for them, unfortunate as that is to say. In PHOENiX, it's not quite 200-0 shutouts. There is a percentage over there from Giant, but I'll be honest, the caliber of play from PHOENiX is just a cut above Giant.
It certainly is so far, and Giant Esports is just trying to maintain any semblance of hope in this matchup. It's not going to be much remaining. It's all PHOENiX on the kill board. It's all PHOENiX on the ults as well. The progression's all there. Like you said, it's not 200-0, but I gotta say it feels close to it.
Yeah, I mean, for how one-sided that actually was, I mean, you've got to just go back to, it's the individual plays, it's the positioning, it's the stuff like the fact that they would split into 3 every single time using the most mobile members just to check where Giant were going to approach the point from and be as ready as they possibly could. Just so much discipline, getting the information, using the ultimates, charging them so much quicker as well. Honestly, at least on Busan, Giant looked outclassed.
Yeah, we're sort of in the position where, much like Lynx TH on the other side, you do have a team that is very far below the matchup in terms of where PHOENiX is on the standings.
0-4 and for a reason.
Yeah, so it's, you know, you're looking at a team that's basically staring down the barrel of a potential 0-5 here. A fun fact is Giant actually started this week with 1 map less won than Lynx TH, so it was 3 maps total being won by Giant so far. Lynx had 4 maps won. It is a different group, maybe different caliber of teams as well. That's up to debate, but right now in the series, PHOENiX look like the team that are the deserving of currently in 3rd place, could even get up to 2nd place depending on how some of the other matches go. Yeah. And you have a PHOENiX squad right now that do look a little bit retooled, that do look very confident, do look very strong, and do look like they're ready to get themselves into playoffs.
I have to say, I'm super impressed as well. The pickup with HOENiX, being able to get him onto the Diva to unlock PHOENiX. Like, this is to say nothing. Like, Victorious, there's nothing wrong with his play at all, but this is just, it just looks that little bit more comfortable from PHOENiX, being able to unlock the Zarya that much more in the Goats v Goats. And it's not like PHOENiX's Diva was bad or anything. It's just, this is just a better way for them to play the Goats. And what I think may actually be happening here. When they want to run Goats, they'll put Hojin Ho in so that they can run it specifically this way, and then have PHOENiX on the Diva and bring in Victorious again when they're wanting to play more DPS-oriented comps.
It certainly gives them options. The one thing you do have to notice is it does change a few plays around. If I'm not mistaken, Victorious usually plays the Brigida, which then puts Vendetta on the Zarya, which then puts Power on the Diva. So
yeah,
you have Hojin Ho in here. Everybody kind of takes one step forward, sits in the next chair in front of them, and goes in a bit of a loop. So players here do need to be very flexible in being able to play other roles, but so far you've got to say it's working out. And
they are flexible players. That's the reality. I think this is one of the most flexible teams in this group right now. But at any rate, let's see if that flexibility can pay off for them, because we now move on to Hybrid. If you're not quite sure how that game mode works, well, take a look at this.
Welcome to Eichenwald. This is Hybrid. Two teams face off as either defenders or attackers. The attacking team has a limited amount of time to first capture a payload and then escort it along a set path containing 2 checkpoints. To capture the payload, the attackers need to stand within its range for a set amount of time. Defenders can delay capture progress by also standing in range. The attackers must work together to clear away the defenders. If successful, they score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. The payload only moves forward when an attacker stands near it. Defenders can delay the payload's movement by standing nearby. To get moving again, the attackers must clear away the defenders by force. If even one attacker is capturing the objective or on the payload when the time runs out, the game enters overtime. This extends play indefinitely until the attackers are either cleared away or they gain more time by reaching a checkpoint. Every time the payload reaches a checkpoint, the attackers score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. The round ends when the payload reaches the destination or when time runs out. Teams switch sides each round. Whichever team scores the most points and escorts the payload farthest wins.
And there it is, Hybrid, and explain it there as well. We are going to head into very soon our next map of the series. It has been chosen. It will be Numbani coming up very soon. And this is one chosen by Giant Esports as the losing team from the previous map. So time is starting to run a little bit short here. They're technically allowed to lose a couple maps here before they're in match point territory for PHOENiX.
I mean, allowed to lose feels like a really troublesome phrase, right? Because you don't really want to lose anything if you can help it. But maybe Numbani will allow this team to turn a new leaf. This is, of course, their second week in a row with Saiyajin God likely taking up a bit of DPS, so maybe they've hit a bit more of a stride in that regard. All that to be seen.
There
it is, the Goat Skyscraper. Walks my dreams. If there was ever a real building that looked like that, I'd be so intimidated. These are my thoughts on architecture.
And now as we come out of Pixie Shell, we head onto the streets of Numbani. It's Giant Esports come out with the Super McCree, shower thoughts, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, please get out of my shower. But you're quite right about that Super McCree, and like we said, Saiyajin God will be taking the DPS mantle. PHOENiX, however, are going to stick with what's working so far. That's Goats with PHOENiX on the Diva. You know what I mean, he's on the Zarya.
Certainly do, and Giant Esports kind of feel that as well. Setting up Saiyajin God is going to be very important here. So far, he's been forced out, as are the rest of Giant.
That's the thing, it's so important for them to keep the pressure on him, and they're doing so now, but in that rotation, they're able to find Melon. That's the thing, relying on the fact that PHOENiX will try to put pressure on Saiyajin God does also give Giant opportunities to isolate members of PHOENiX, force them to overextend. They get set up on the point now with that numbers advantage, and this is where Saiyajin God gets unlocked.
It's already been 2 ticks gone. PHOENiX can't wait too long. They actually have to go in and contest.
Hojin Ho goes in first with the barrier running on him. They've got the full 6 members back in action now, but Giant this time around are the ones with the space, with the positioning. They find Vendetta, Deadeye to come out here in the sound barrier to keep them all nice and safe throughout. Vendetta goes down, Hojin Ho's mech gets picked, and this should be Giant just able to finish the cap out here unless anything goes terribly wrong. Grav does catch a good number of members, but it's so hard to follow up on, unfortunately, and Pichu had a Transcendence in the right time as well. Melon's going to stall out with this Primal Rage. Rage, hey, they might as well. Pixie does get dropped down. PHOENiX do have a closer respawn here. If they can maybe deal with Sage and God, they're in business. They do actually pick up T1. So now PHOENiX starting to stage a bit of a comeback. Second Deadeye available in this fight, but this is where the pressure comes in on Sage and God. He does get picked off, and PHOENiX have beaten back the Green Tide.
And once again, you see a PHOENiX side where they're starting to lose a little bit. Maybe they're even trading even at best, but they are able to commit ultimates in there. At first, seems a little dicey. Power throws in a grab, instantly dies himself. PHOENiX still waiting for respawners, but as the Primal Rage gets used by Melon, pushes back Sage and God, forces him away from the rest of the team. Because you lose the main source of damage, Giant Esports just could not respond with the kills or the damage.
They've actually swapped team comps. I think what they were doing is I think they'd already swapped, assuming they would cap, and now they've just kind of got to work with what they've got here. A little bit unfortunate, but what's done is done as Sun Series gets picked and dropped. PHOENiX now in command on this defense, and they've got ultimates they can cycle through as well, potentially forcing T1 back and getting the pick as well. Good pressure out of PHOENiX. They will finish the res on T1 though, so not too bad for Giant.
You have a Giant Esports side that is definitely wanting to play the pharmacy into this comp right now. You don't normally see this on B or C, so this is still a strat that they want to take A with, and so far, killing Ilsu B, they do have advantage.
Yeah, nicely played self-destruct to cut Pichu off from the rest of the team, but unfortunately Ho will not re-mech. That's going to be a defensive Transcendence, but it may just be an aggressive one when you look at the kills coming through now. PHOENiX just leveraging that for all it's worth. Ho's actually going to return on Tracer for a second, and he's going to go back to the Demon now. And Giant, they're still kind of struggling to make headway.
Well, Giant is still losing members here. They need to probably reset because they have to regroup properly as 6. They can't fight with only 4, with only 3 when they have a respawn disadvantage as well. PHOENiX continually just reinforcing their defense stronger and stronger every single time. Now we're back into Graviton Surge territory. Now we're also back into Primal Rage territory as well.
Giant, this is not the position they expected to be in, I think, after how decently that sort of initial phase went. It wasn't the very first push, but they still had a lot of success early on. Now really struggling to replicate it. The Rocket Barrage from Sage and God just kind of getting nothing, going dead onto Melon, but not even finishing him off. And now Giant, they've got to leverage these other ultimates.
We're still waiting for EMP, and that's the main one, but Sun Series is still charging. He needs a bit more time. It's finally available.
Self-destruct forward from Mushroom makes a bit of space, but it doesn't kill anyone. And that space doesn't do much either. Ho on the counter dive finds Sage and God. EMP now out as Sage and God gets rezzed. Trying to come back into the fight he is, but he's a little bit too late to capitalize on the bulk of the EMP. And in that time, PHOENiX were just putting out more damage. They're cleaning up what is now the last gasp out of Giant. And this is absolutely devastating here. Giant, I don't even think they're actually going to finish this cap when all is said and done. Welcome to AGDQ. My name is PHOENiX, and this is my Numbani% speedrun of Giant.
Yep, and they are able to get that completed hold on A as well. And unfortunately for Giant Esports, what may have been a possible cap onto A going through to B and potentially onto C, maybe we could have seen a time back. That's all just a lot of ifs right now, because for Giant Esports, what was a pretty good start got robbed from them pretty quickly as well. They actually played, in terms of ultimate usage, very well. They had what had coming up, Deadeye very quickly from Sage. He had a lot of damage. Actually managed to build a second Deadeye in the exact same fight before he eventually went down. And the only defensive ultimate on the other side to come through was the Transcendence, which the Deadeye doesn't actually care about. So they continue picking up kills through that while PHOENiX were waiting for respawners. But as soon as PHOENiX decided to commit with the Graviton Surge, with Power then dying straight away as well, Melon then Primal Ranging, PHOENiX clawed that point back in their control, and they never let it go again.
That's the thing. I mean, look, a numbers advantage is one thing, but that doesn't in itself make the fight finished. You can just still frag out and come back from that position. And it's quite scary, I think, that PHOENiX are able to just frag out when they find themselves in that position.
Yeah, because I think that was a very losable position for PHOENiX to be in, and they would have been heavily punished as well. If Giant, which was probably a high percentage chance of them actually finish capping through A, PHOENiX just chucked a lot of ultimates at A for no real gain, and they would have been at a huge deficit for B. Giant could have been pretty confident to get themselves onto C as well, but the entire game plan has now been changed. They have to entirely consider what this now defense looks like, because they need to defend 89.5%, but there will be no time back, there will be no B or C.
Now, out the gates. It's really a tough spot for Giant. They do at least get the scout a little bit out here with Sun Series, but what they really need is for the EMP to come up quick smart.
What we also do have here is a full dive coming out from PHOENiX, the traditional kind as well. Yeah. The Genji Tracer variety.
And it's their flexibility that they can lean into. They do lose Melon, though, on that dive. Good counter trade by HoJinHo, but this is already a very unfavorable situation for PHOENiX to be, and I say that they're keeping the pressure on. This is with people on the point as well. Mushroom finally finishes off Ben.
Remember, they frag out.
Despite losing the early tank, despite losing Melon and PHOE's mech, PHOE didn't die. He's back in the mech. They still got the kills. That is unbelievable.
That's about a 4 or 5 kill streak there for HoJinHo as well, because he just had an insane amount of presence. Doesn't matter if Vendetta was pressured on early. And you have to remember, like you said, this is the type of team where if it looks a little bit worse for wear for them, if it looks like the fight isn't going super well, actually their ability to just continue fighting and turn things around from an unfavorable position to a winning situation is so far been a pretty high hit rate.
I mean, that's a terrible start to a fight, right? Like, they lost a member on the dive. All of their members were low, getting pressured out. They had no one in that fight with more than, I think, 250 hit points. And then they just popped off. And that's the thing. That's actually the difference between these two teams. When all is said and done, when PHOENiX, even in an unfavorable situation, are just out-fragging this reliably, Giant, even if they have really slick macro, which, for what it's worth, they also kind of don't right now, they are just outmatched right now. They don't quite have that same individual playmaking.
What I will say is, at least on the 250 HP regard, most of the heroes don't have more than 250 HP anyway, so that was probably going to be a little true. But at the same point, I do see what you're saying, though, because there were a lot of low
when you add like the armor from tanks and stuff.
Only tanks really have more than 250.
Yeah, but that's my point. They lost the tank and the mech of one of their other tanks, so it was squishy members.
It's certainly the case, but at the same time, because they're diving quite aggressively, they're in this sort of all-in scenario where they could just all die because they are very low, but because they have a lot of firepower, if they continue playing aggressive, they continue diving through, their damage output is very respectable as well, as we've seen, especially when you are running stuff like traces. They can get a lot of high sort of momentum, snowball sort of mechanics there as well for a guy like HoJinHo. It's why he had a lot of impact. It's why he picked up a lot of kills, a lot of damage.
And it says a lot as well, actually. HoJinHo coming on to the squad right now. He's been able to unlock Power Woo on the Zarya when they're playing Goats, but in its own right as a potential DPS player when need be, is also really showing up. And I mean, of Tracer of all things, it's not like Tracer is completely unplayable, especially in that situation with no Brigitte. She's actually quite a good pick, but HoJinHo is really showing his chops here.
And PHOENiX as well, just showing how strong they are. That is 2 very quick maps so far in the series. And Giant, they're in the space now where they need to reverse sweep. We're going to go to a bit of a break, but when we do come back, we'll see if they can do that, or see if PHOENiX are going to be the ones to close this out. See you after this.